Those of you who have seen the report that Microsoft produce every year will know these numbers. They are just vast. The amount of attacks that are going on is just huge. And Sarah came up with some numbers, and she's talking about data sizes that 20 years ago people would not even have mentioned. I mean, petabytes of data is just crazy. The one thing that people are, generally speaking, most worried about that isn't exfiltration of data is ransomware. The last thing that an organization wants is to lose access to its own data, because it will basically kill the business. You then have to spend time trying to get it back. The longer it takes you to get it back, the more the financial pain that you're suffering. So we need to make sure that you are in a position where you can do things to bring it back. A few of the things that you can do. Well, ensure you have a robust update policy. Or to quote Sarah from earlier, patch, 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 and patch some more. Except, of course, if you're running something that Solaragate, in which case don't patch, test, and then patch. Because, of course, it was patching that got them into trouble. But as a rule, we patch. Back up your data and your apps and include Active Directory if you have one. Now, a lot of organizations today are cloud only. We don't have an on-premises Active Directory that we can use. How do you back up your Azure Active Directory, your Entra ID? You don't, do you? At the moment, there is no way to do it. So should you lose everything, well, you've lost everything. Unless it's in the recycle bin, in which case you can bring it back. But yeah, really, relying on a recycle bin as our disaster recovery option. What you need to do is make sure you have a dump of the data. Yes, it's not going to include passwords, but at least it'll include all of your IDs and the groups and the memberships and everything that goes with it. So please make sure you back it up. Anybody actually test backups? And by test, do a full restore of your complete backup to something to make sure that you can do it in a timely manner. So I was having a chat with somebody from a council earlier on, and they've done a test. And in order to recover their SharePoint environment from their backup, they are talking months to do a full restore. Months. Not hours, not days, months. Is that backup really going to help them if they have a DR? They're going to be down for months. So make sure your backup is relevant to your DR strategy. If your DR says you have to be back up and live within 24 hours, it's not going to work. So you need to make sure that you have things in place. Please, please do strong authentication. I mean, originally that said modern authentication, but actually what we really mean is multi-factor. And I actually don't think that's enough. We need to do phish-proof multi-factor. I don't want you to be in the position where you're doing something that could have been spoofed. So the nice dual number entry that people have today with the Microsoft Authenticator app is good, but it's not a FIDO2 key, and a FIDO2 key is better. When we talk about your break glass accounts, your emergency recovery accounts, how do you protect them? You can't really use the Authenticator app because you don't know who's going to be signing in as that user. You can't really put a password, even a stupidly long password, in an envelope, in a safe, in a building that's on fire because you can't get to it. If you lose your key vault, you can't put the password into the key vault because you can't get to it because you can't log. You're in catch-22. How do you get around that? Simple answer is FIDO2. It's very straightforward to add a FIDO key to your break glass account, but not one key or two or three. Give one to every single person in your third line support. Name the key for the individual. So mine would be called Dave. Des's would be called Des. Then I can see who's used the key, so I know who logged on as the break glass account. But by using that, I've got MFA, I've got an audit control, and I'm not relying on anything outside of the key. So it becomes a really good way of working. We need to protect the endpoints. The endpoints are where the damage will come from. Have you ever seen a completely secure computer? I have one at home. It's completely secure. It has no power, no keyboard, no monitor. It is not plugged into a network, and actually it's in my loft because it's old. But it's secure. It's not going to get infected. As soon as you plug it in, as soon as you connect it to something, it is potentially going to be infected. So you need to make sure the protection is on that device. And that device could be an iPhone, an Android, a tablet, an iPad, a Nintendo DS, unlikely, but it could be. A Windows device, a Linux device, a Chromebook. Okay, how many devices types have we got? We need to make sure they're all protected with the same level of protection. And whatever it is that's doing the protection needs to understand not just what's going on now, but what happened tomorrow. Hang on. What happens tomorrow? Somebody's ingested something. They don't know about it because it's sitting there dormant. Defender hasn't picked it up because it's sitting there dormant. And then tomorrow, it lights up and it starts doing things on the device. Well, I need to be picking that up. So we need to make sure that we've got an extended detection and response. Because the last thing I want is for an alert to go to somebody who then sees an email come in and says, oh, I've got an alert to deal with, but it's 250th on my list. Meanwhile, my device is being trashed. So we need to make sure that we've got all of these things in place, which is where XDR comes in. That extended detection and response. Wherever you can have a workbook that disconnects that device from the connections has got to be the way to go. Do your cyber hygiene training. Okay, thoroughly agree with what you said earlier. I have to do cyber hygiene training for Coacho, because I work for Coacho. But I also work for a number of clients, and I have accounts in their systems, so I do their cyber training. GDPR training, code of conduct training, anti-blackmail training. You name it, I do it. It is the most boring, dull thing in the world. Getting something that makes it a game, okay, I can click on that link. It really makes it worthwhile. But make sure people know about it. Make sure they understand why, not just how, because the why is important. And what's your response plan? What's your DR plan? Who knows about it? Who knows where it is? Is it only the IT manager who knows about it? Because if he's on holiday in Egypt and suffering with some sort of food poisoning, you're never going to get there. So you need to make sure that these things are published and people know where to go. And ideally, that publication will not be online. It will be printed in the book, in the office, where you're going to be doing the work. Because if it's online, oh, sorry, it's just been trashed. You can't read it anymore. So make sure you've got it. So here's what you have to do. 3 steps. Shouldn't be too difficult. Implement XDR. We understand that. We've got it. Apply your zero trust principles. And by zero trust, we don't actually mean zero trust. We mean near zero. Because if you apply zero trust, you might as well just disconnect the computer and never use it again. Near zero. Make sure you know what's going on. And protect your data. How many people here can actively say that their documents are all sensitivity labeled and tracked? Please notice I haven't put my hand up. Most people don't understand the benefits of sensitivity labeling. Making sure you know a document is official, secret, whatever it might be, even if you don't encrypt it, even if you don't actively protect it, means you can now monitor where it's gone. Who sent it out, to whom by email, who shared it on SharePoint with somebody else, who put it into Box or Dropbox and shared it out. So really start to protect that unstructured data. SQL databases, Oracle databases, they're fine. They have built-in controls. But your unstructured data, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they need to be monitored and you need to know what's going on with them. Now, at this point, 3 minutes to 1, I was going to go into a set of slides about XDR. But to be honest, you've probably seen them before. We've been talking about XDR a lot. We all know how XDR and Defender links into Sentinel, links into the SIEM tool, links into the SOAR tool. It all comes back into one single pane of glass. So to be honest, I'm going to skip this, which is such a nice feeling not to have to do slides. And instead, I'm going to get to the point where I say, thank you. But before I let you go for lunch, a couple of things to bear in mind. There is a lot of stuff we've gone through today, and we haven't done it in huge detail because we can't. We've only got 3 hours. If you want some more detail on anything, contact the Coacho team, speak to whoever you normally speak to, and arrange for a vision call. If it's just a question, fine, we'll take an hour. If you want a serious discussion, we'll take a couple of hours. We don't like doing 30-minute calls because by the time you've got to the call, having overrun on your previous call, we've lost 5 minutes. We then do introductions, which takes 10 minutes, and that leaves us 5 minutes, basically have the full conversation. Doesn't work. We'll give you an hour. It's free. We'll give you 2 hours. It's still free. And we will go through how we can help and answer the questions that you've got. So please do that.